The way that you present that is so interesting because when we talk about just let's say decision making, we either make emotional decisions or logical decisions.
Yes.
And when it comes to logic, logic is based on data.
Yes.
But you pose it as though emotions are data.
You got
They
it.
can be data. So what that leads me to believe is the quality of that data is predicated on your ability to interpret it,
Okay.
right? So how do you best put yourself into a position to better understand what you're feeling, your emotions?
Okay. So here's an interesting thing. So I've done many talks before, and the kind of my opening statement is, how do we define emotion? So I'm going to start there because people get that confused and complicated. They will put their hands up if I'm standing in front of a big audience and say, oh, it's when you're happy and you're sad. I'm like, well, it's kind of like trying to describe color. We can talk about pink, red, purple, blue, green, blah, 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 but it's really hard to define what's the definition of color. So same with emotion. It's really hard to define what is an emotion. So I break it down and say it's a combination between a physical response, because we have lots of physiology that occurs when we feel an emotion, and then it's our cognitions as well. So how it's our interpretation of an event. It's our interpretation of something, or a perspective on things. So someone's happiness can look really, really different than somebody else's happiness. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I talk about it as a combo between our physical response when we're getting hooked by something, as well as what we're thinking about. That's kind of how I talk about emotion.